Hi, my name is Clare and I'm the mother of 3 teenagers with FASD.
And I'm Jessica, a PhD student researching educational interventions for children with FASD.
And together we are the hosts of Spotlight on FASD, the UK's first podcast dedicated to shining a spotlight on fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
FASD is a condition caused by prenatal alcohol exposure that affects hundreds of thousands of children across the UK.
And we're here to bring these conversations out of the shadows and make sure that no one living with FASD feels alone.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the final episode of Spotlight on FASD for 2020. We're not going anywhere. That's just our final episode for this year. We're going to take a little break over Christmas and just step away for a bit, and we will be back in the new year. We will be back. So this, like I said, it's our final episode of 2020, and we wanted to end it on the most positive note we can. So this week we're going to be talking about the joys of FASD and what we mean by that. I mean, we will explain it as we go. What I don't want anybody to take from this is that I don't want this message to come across wrong. FASD is extremely challenging for those living with this condition, and you know, I don't want people to hear this episode and think, you know, oh, there's so many positives to it, and relax at all about alcohol consumption in pregnancy and anything like that. This condition is so challenging for the individuals living with it and their parents and caregivers. What we want to do is bring a little bit of joy and a little bit of hope and share the positives around this condition, because there are positives to it. There are positives. This is not all doom and gloom. You know, my experience with working with children with FASD has been such a joy. They are the most hilarious children that I have ever met, in ways that a neurotypical brain couldn't be that funny.
Yeah.
I think so we are positives this week.
And I think that I totally understand what you mean, that by no stretch of the imagination are we saying having a brain injury is a joy. It's not. But there are so many unique little pockets of happiness all the time. Yeah. And as the mum of 3, I get that 3 times over of the level of the thought process, which is often hilarious, like belly laugh out loud hilarious. But it's peppered with moments of wanting to chew my own arms off with just absolute desperation. So we're not going to make any bones about it, but we talk a lot about the difficulties because we want to help and we want to shed some light onto that, put the spotlight onto the difficulties, and talk about how we're from an academic stance why they're happening, from a practical stance what I do when they're happening, see if it can help you. But I think that, you know, we really want to focus on the fact that it's such a unique condition that I feel like I get a kind of joy that a mother of neurotypical 13, 14 and 15-year-old doesn't get anymore. I'm not saying that you don't get happiness, but it's different. It's a different kind. And I talk quite a bit about how I feel that I get them to be little for longer, and that comes with its challenges, but it comes with so many plus points that they kind of I was thinking about some things that I could talk about, and they need you in ways that neurotypical teenagers don't need you, and then they need you for longer. And as a mother, this might just be me, I might just be a little bit odd, but as a mother, that is one of the nicest things for me, that they need me in that kind of a way, and that they have no filter And no filter means brutal honesty. And quite often brutal honesty is hilarious.
What other people may think in that moment.
I was so stressed. I had about 3.5 hours sleep, and I FaceTimed my daughter who was upstairs in the house, but I was in the kitchen, and I was trying to sort out tea, and I was absolutely exhausted. And I FaceTimed her, and she answered FaceTime, and I just heard, "Jeez, Mum, oh, I forget every time how big your brow is until I get a good look at it." She's just staring at my face on FaceTime. And she went, "Ooh, hoof, hoof." It's one of my favourite things, hoof. Isn't it really, really big? Anyway, but she's in the same way that when they're dysregulated, I try and find a way to distract them out of it. She had distracted me from, like, I was surrounded by laundry, everyone wanted different things to eat, and I was like, I'm just want to lie down, I'm so tired. And she just totally snapped me out of it. And she's like, I'm not being mean, I'm not being mean, it's just, it's big. Like, what? I'm like, right, we've established that. But it's just so funny. And I think that, like, the kind of conversations we get to have and the kind of interactions are, I just feel that I've kind of got them for a little bit longer. But definitely the sense of humour, they're so funny. That if even on a bad day, I can hand on heart say that at least once every single day, all three of my children make me unexpectedly belly laugh. Sometimes it might be shock, sometimes it might be tinged with a little bit of fear of what's unfolding in front of us, but they make us belly laugh every single day. And I don't think there's many of my peers, so many of my fellow mothers of teenagers can say that. And that is down to their differences, definitely. So I think we wanted to focus on that, the little pockets of happiness, and I want to remind people about, I have kind of trained myself to focus on this now, because living in this world, you can become a little overwhelmed by it, and you can become bogged down by it, and everything seems to be a battle, and sometimes it seems like a step too far to be able to overcome some of the obstacles. So I would tell myself to kind of name my little pockets of happiness out loud and address them out loud.
And laugh.
Yeah, and
laugh at those moments.
And so I think that is one of my biggest tips that I can give anyone. And it might be that you get like 3 or 4 quiet minutes and you're drinking a hot drink, and it makes you feel lovely. If you say out loud, like, "Oh, this is making us feel happy," it sounds a little bit airy-fairy, but it really, really does work. It's positive affirmations, isn't it? It really, really does work. And I think, when it comes to parenting children with FASD, so yesterday, all 3 of my children ate the same food at the same time. We're in the same room, obviously that would be a step too far, but they all ate the same meal, and that's something that your average mother would that's just a normal occurrence, unless you've got picky kids, but that's such a big deal. And I honestly sat down for about 10 minutes after I'd dished everything up, and I just sat down in the kitchen and wallowed in it for a little bit. I was just like, they've all just ate sausage and mash that I made.
Find the joy in that moment.
And when I went upstairs to my daughter's room, and she was just finishing eating, and she's like a little old woman, and I said, "Oh, was that lovely?" And she went, "That mashed potato was bloody delicious." She was like deadly serious. "How was it?" She went, "Yes, it was just right. Good work." And she's not being patronising at all. She's being dead serious. I was like, "Okay, thanks." So yeah, you've got to, because like I think it's just so important to store them up, and I also store them up into like I gain credit of them to try and remember, so that outweigh the bits where I'm stressed or anxious or things aren't going as smoothly. So yeah, I think that's just, we just wanted to end our year on the positives and the joys. Yeah,
because laughing is such a stress reliever. Like just laughing, and those unfiltered moments that you get with children, young people with FASD, and probably adults as well. I don't have any experience to speak to in that area. But those moments of unfiltered, where you could be offended and you could take it personally, but in that split second, something's gone through their mind and it's come straight out of their mouth. And you just got to let yourself laugh about it. And I, as Claire, was you were saying about what your daughter said when she answered a your FaceTime. I have a friend who, I can't imagine would mind me saying this at all. I'm going to say it anyway. From camp, who, it wasn't last year, I think it was the year before. Anyway, it was maybe, I don't know. Anyway, lost all track of time. One of the kids turned around to him and said, "Are you fat because you're unemployed, or unemployed because you're fat?"
And that was like a deadly serious question to that child.
It was
to work out what's going on there.
It was deadly serious, but delivered in a way that had the entire staff group doubled over, like just the belly laughs.
And then did it start to make that person question, like, I don't know?
Well, the person who it was said to was just stood like rabbit in headlights, kind of, what on earth have you just said to me? And I must point out, he's neither fat or unemployed. He'd literally just finished uni and was a very normal sized human at the time, and still is. So I don't know, like, it was just so funny. But in that moment, when that child realized, like, he had no connection to what he had just said and the reaction from the staff group, but the confidence that it gave him in that moment, that he just had all these adults belly laughing and a few high fives and things along the way. The confidence that gave him in that moment was like, I think I like it here. Like, yeah, this is a good place to be. Look at all these friends I've just made.
It's lovely as well, though, because it is a learning curve for them, but both ways. Yesterday morning, when I got my daughter up for school, I took it a step too far, and I was like, do that, and then don't forget to pick that up out of your bedroom and brush your teeth. So three instructions. What was I even thinking? Because I was already ahead of myself what I was going to be doing next to get her to school. And she went, oh, and she was trying to think of how to describe how I was making her feel. And she went, you're like if a little bird was pecking its beak off the end of me ear. That's what I felt like, and I thought, oh my God, that's exactly what I just sounded like. But I was attacking her ear with very short, fast instructions, and it's just that it felt like a bird pecking at the end of her ear. So when we talk about FASD and you give clear step-by-step, not multi-part, clear individual instruction, she is able to give the kind of FASD dictionary definition of what it feels like to them when we don't do that. Yeah. So are you going to be able to concentrate on anything if a little bird's pecking on the end of your ear? No, your mind's just going to go like explode, and that's all you certainly can't remember those 3 instructions or to brush your teeth, that's for certain. So it was so funny, and I said, I'm sorry, I absolutely am, I'm going to stop. Right, thank you. She wasn't doing it to make us laugh. That was just exactly, she needed me to know how I was making her feel. But they are lovely moments, because that's an interaction where it could be she could have got really quite stressed, or I, in the past, before I know what I know now, I definitely would have said, don't be so cheeky and just do what I'm asking you to do.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have got to school.
Yeah.
And I would have been wondering why we didn't get to school.
Yeah.
So laughing and saying, oh, really sorry, yeah.
She's provided you with such an insight there and a learning experience. I had the same this past summer at camp, where you know, one of the children really gave me an insight into that as well, in the same way, like how their brain's working. And it was about 5:30 in the morning. I was up, I was sat next to the doctor, ready to go. You know, I was greeting the people who were coming up and going to the bathroom and stuff as they entered the main hall that we had. And out of nowhere, this little guy appears, like right here. So I had no warning. I didn't hear him come through the door. He came from somewhere behind me, slid a few feet along the bench, and was like right in my ear, as close to me as he could get. And he was in a real like ADHD kind of moment. And, you know, I'd had about a 3-hour sleep, and he just started firing questions at me with no hesitation. I hadn't even processed that he was there. And the questions started. And the questions came so fast, with no chance for me to think or answer. He wasn't looking for an answer. And it was, how did you get here? Does your mother know that you're here? Do you drink tea in England? How much does tea cost in England? Does your mother drink tea? And where do you buy tea from in England? How many people in England drink tea? How many people in England come to America? How many people are on your plane? And they came so fast. There was no time to stop. And then he went, do you know who the president of Russia is? And do you know how tall the president of Russia is? And then he stopped, and I was like, oh God, this is my moment to answer.
Which one do I answer?
Or like, I don't know the president of, all I could think of was how tall is the president of Russia? And I was like, I haven't got a clue. And he could see that I hadn't got a clue and that I was all flustered. And he went, I'll give you a clue. It's more than 5'6". And he was dead serious throughout this whole thing. I must have looked so flustered. And I went, I don't know, 6'2"? And he looked at me with complete and utter disgust, as if to say, you absolute idiot, you're the adult in charge here. I just gave you the answer. And went, no, 5'7". And in that moment, he was gone as quickly as he arrived.
You're like, what's just happened?
Completely flabbergasted. And for the rest of the day, all these questions were going through my head. And every time I saw him, I went, he talks about this much.
So I'll tell you what you've just described there, right? And this is how I describe it. So when you live in a world of FASD, in a household of FASD, do you know the feeling where when you were like younger, if you had siblings, or I don't know, if your friend or something, you know, when you're getting chased up the stairs, and it's a game, but that panicky feeling of getting chased up the stairs, that's what it's like when they're coming at you and they're so important. And I used to have it, because there's only there's like 25 months between my three. So when they were really small and they were coming out of primary school, they all had such important things to say to me, equally important as each other, and trying to, it used to be so difficult not to kind of upset the other two, but I had to listen to one first, or try and listen to them all together and pick out you know what the rest had been said. And it used to continuously feel like I was being chased up the stairs all of the time. That was like the level of energy and kind of low level anxiety that it took out of you all the time. You had to be on high alert because you didn't know what you, and like, you know, there is a huge element, because in an episode that will be airing in the new year, we're touching on trauma and FASD, and there's a huge element with children who live with developmental trauma and on hovering around their fight or flight system all the time, that if being the adult in charge is a big deal. they absolutely need to know that somebody is in charge, somebody knows what they're doing, that's the safe person, and and that can sometimes be asking you a random question and, well, you're meant to be the adult in charge, you should know the answer to this.
Yeah, and that's the look I was given.
Thank God for Google is all I can say.
Oh, you didn't give me time for that. Oh God, I still haven't Googled whether or not the president of Russia is 5'7". I don't know whether that was a fact.
I'm going to do it when we finish. I need to find that out. But yeah, I think we just wanted to touch on, like, it is the season of joy. It's a funny old season of joy this year, but it is. And I think another aspect of joy that we want to touch on is the fact that we've had over 2,000 listens on our little podcast, which is beyond our wildest expectations and something that has really, really made us happy. And it's made us happy because it means that, you know, there are, like Jessica said, she put a lovely social media post out, and that's 2,000 opportunities for people to be talking about FASD, to have some awareness raised around it, and mostly to have been helped. You know, the opportunity to think that people can have been helped by listening to us and listening to what we have to say. So I think that I've talked about my motivation was if I could just help one person, and we've had lots of people. It's been mind-blowing how many people have contacted us to either just say that they're thoroughly enjoying it, or to say that it's helped them, to ask to kind of collaborate with us for lots of different reasons. People have got in touch, and it's lovely to know that we've helped people. But one mum got in touch and asked for some very specific help, some very specific guidance, like a kind of a how-to guide. And for me to be able to do that has just given me such joy, because I know exactly how she was feeling, exactly where she is in her journey, and to be able to say, hang on a minute, do that, that and that, don't do that, make sure that's done, speak to that person. It's just, it truly, it sounds dead cliched, but it really, really makes the struggle worthwhile to think that, you know, and I said to her that I know she is not going to walk down the road that I walked down. Mm-hmm. She's just not going to. And that was, you know, I was quite surprised at how it made us feel, at how it impacted us. It really, really, it was really quite humbling and exciting all at the same time. It was a massive pocket of happiness, that is for certain, to be able to know that I've practically sent someone away with a to-do list of things that I would have sold my soul to have been able to do with my children at the young age her child is, who has an early diagnosis. So that's been a huge source of happiness for me, definitely, and it's going to be a lovely high note to end the year on for me, and just making us so excited for the year ahead.
Definitely, there's so much, you know, we've just touched on the joys of and the little pockets of happiness with FASD itself, and with the individuals and how their brains worked, but also these journeys that we're walking and the opportunity that it's brought us to in the form of this podcast. And you know, we have got it's amazing every time I see a message come in that says like, oh, I really enjoyed this, or this really spoke to me, or, you know, this is something that I've experienced, or, you know, those things as well. But we've also had messages from people who, you know, messages that are more directed towards me, saying, you know, what's your PhD in, and how do I sign up for that? Where do I look for something like that? I want to go into this area. And, you know, this opportunity, as we've mentioned before, I fell into FASD. Well, you kind of did as well, didn't you, Glynn?
Yeah.
Kind of just fell into the FASD world. But now, you know, one day we decided to sit down and record our conversations that, you know, people couldn't get us to shut up chatting away. So we decided to sit down and record them, and all of a sudden we've got these people that are reaching out to us and saying like, you know, what can I do, or can you help me with this? And it's, yeah,
very, very exciting. And we've got, you know, this, we've been able to, our knowledge combined is pretty vast, but we've got so much learning to do, and we've learned so much over this first kind of season of episodes, and things that are happening in the new year with regards to FASD are like, it really, I think 2021, like, I think I seen something on the internet the other day, like, nobody is putting posts on social media about 2021 is going to be my year, because people are a little bit scared because they just don't know what's going to happen because of what happened with 2020. But 2021 is definitely going to be a pivotal year for FASD in the UK, without a shadow of a doubt. The NICE quality standards are all up and running again. They will be released in the new year. So it's, you know, we've been talking to somebody who is working on an FASD specific parenting course, parenting training, which is so desperately needed. So
that's an episode coming in the new year. We weren't just sneakily having conversations behind closed doors.
I was just trying to give you a little teaser for that. So there's so many positive things on the horizon for next year, and it makes, and I touched on, we've recorded an interview before this, and it was two academics and me, and the feeling of both of those academics was like, oh, we're quite new in this world. You live this world all the time. But I think as a parent and a caregiver, how I feel when it comes to academics in the world of FASD is, it gives me great comfort, because I feel like you have our backs, because you are doing the learning. You are beavering away, researching and learning and finding more and more out. So it feels less of a lonely road to travel, definitely.
When you say that, I visualize stuff all the time, so visual. When you say that, what my hope is for academics, myself included, but you know, the true academics who are in this full time and fully funded and paid to do it, what I envisage that to be is that they are trying to scoot ahead and lay that path for you, so that you as parents, carers, teachers, whoever it is that you are, who on the front line, have an easier path to walk when they get to all of those, you know, whereas before, 10 years ago, you were falling down ditch after ditch, no services, there was mountains to climb, and you'd hit every single barrier possible. And I really, really hope that the academics and, you know, research, anybody who's in a position to change this, anything, are, you know, beavering away and laying that path, and you know, just,
that's a lovely image to have, actually. And I think it hasn't been possible before now, but the more research that's done, especially research on prevalence, so we know the kind of figures we're looking at, the more research that will be able to be funded, and I imagine that it will have a bit of a snowball effect when it comes to that, so that it's going to creep along slowly, but then hopefully it'll snowball, so more people will get involved, more research will be done, the more the word spreads and people become fascinated, because it is fascinating.
Yeah.
The more research will be done, and you will be able to get ahead of the game and lay a smoother path for the people kind of coming up behind us on that journey, definitely.
Definitely. And what I would say to those people, as my sort of closing message for 2020, what I would say to those people, if anybody is facing an adoption where FASD has been mentioned and they're a little bit hesitant because they can't find any information, if anybody is walking into foster care and the unknowns there, if anybody's a teacher, if anybody for any reason, because I've been there myself, is faced with caring for an individual with FASD in any capacity and is filled with fear due to the lack of anything.
The lack of Google showing anything up.
Yeah, the lack of anything. Do not be afraid, because there is so much joy and reward at the end of it. And we've got another episode ready to launch in the new year, where I do say, if you want to make a grown man cry, take them to camp for a week. And that applies to anything. You know, the reward that I've seen people feel after experiencing a week caring for people with FASD and learning about, you know, what FASD means to them, has impacted their lives more than anything else that they could ever do. And it's not easy. It is not easy. And I can say that, and I don't even live it. I'm saying that from 1 week a year. It is not easy. And, you know, Claire can actually back that up with real evidence. But it's so rewarding, and there is so much joy that I do encourage anybody to just grab that opportunity with 2 hands, but also learn as much as you possibly can to make that journey easier, make that journey better, because it is changing and it is getting easier.
I think my kind of, I've got 2 little festive takeaway messages for the end of the year, and the first one is to anyone who is living with like the sleep deprivation and stuff. You won't die from less than 4 hours sleep a night. I'm proof of that. And the second one is, try pancakes for your Christmas dinner and make your life a little bit easier. So they're my 2 top festive tips to take away to reassure and make life easier. But I've had an absolute blast so far, and I already can't wait. I know we're taking a couple of weeks off, but we probably won't. We probably will keep recording, because people are getting in touch now and asking us to talk about specific things, which is brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted, which means that our content is valuable and you want to hear it and you need to hear about these things. So as always, please get in touch with us. I feel like this is just the start of a huge journey. And
if we don't get back to you straight away, we will.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Have a turnaround time, I'll be honest, but we've read them and we love them, and it makes our hearts burst.
Yeah. So we wish everyone a lovely, calm and peaceful Christmas, whatever that looks like in your little family. I wish sleep for people and regulation.
Yeah. Very much so.
We'll be back in the new year, and we hope that you'll be back to sit alongside us on this journey that we're all part of.
Yeah, and thank you very much for joining us this far. We really, really appreciate every single one of those 2,000 listens, and we hope that this continues to grow.
And that's us signing off for 2020.
Goodbye, everybody.